Hey, this is Mr. Ford. I will be doing questions 13 through 23 on the study guide today. So I'd encourage you guys to work this with me as I'm doing it. So let's just go ahead and get started. So question 13 says the equation shows the average cost, Y, in dollars, of electricity per kilowatt hour used, X, for homes in the state of Missouri in 2011. So the first thing I need to realize is that the average cost is going to be Y, right? So the average cost is going to be this Y here. Okay? The electricity per kilowatt hour used is going to be represented as our X. Okay, so our Y is the average cost. Average cost. And our X is the electricity per kilowatt hour. Okay, so these two things are important. So my question says, based on the equation, what would be the cost in dollars for a home using 0 kilowatts hour of electricity in 2011? Okay, so here's what I know. I know that I'm using 0 kilowatts per hour, right? Okay, so my new equation is going to look like this. Y equals 1 times 10. And I said my X was my electricity. So I say 1 times 10 times 0, right? So that's my new equation. I know Y is my cost in dollars, and that is what I'm trying to find. So all I need to do is say 1 divided by 10 times 0. Remember, anything times 0 is just going to be 0. So 2 times 0 is 0, 10 times 0 is 0, elephant times 0 is 0. But 1 divided by 10 times 0 is 0. So our answer is going to be 0. So make sure you write that down. Okay, so question 14 says the graph of a system of equations. Remember, system of equations just means more than one equation, right? So if we just have an equation, it's just one line. If I have a system of equations, it's multiple. So here they are on this graph here. Okay, so I have a line that goes right here and a line that goes right here. What's important to know is that anywhere where these two lines cross, right here, okay, if they cross in the middle, right, anywhere, that's what we call a solution to our system. So I say a solution to a system of equations is anywhere where they cross. So it's as easy as this. All I have to do is say, what are my coordinates of this? And I go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left. So I know my X coordinate is going to be -4. And I go 1, 2 up. So I know my Y coordinate is 2. So my point is -4, 2. And I go down and it says, what is the solution of the system of equations? And I say, well, that's the one I just said. So that is my answer. So again, system of equations is anywhere where they cross. Okay. Number 15 says, Mr. Rose surveyed his students about the amount of time they spent studying for his final exam and their final exam scores. He graphed the results on a coordinate plane. Which graph shows the best, bold, okay, best approximation of the line that fits Mr. Rose's data the best, basically? Okay, so I look at all of these graphs right here, right? And it's really easy for these to just overwhelm me with all the dots and stuff. But we're not going to let it. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we're trying to find the graph that has the dots that are most accurate to this line. Okay, the dots that are most accurate or approximate to the line, right? So I look at all these graphs, and my first step, so a good test taking strategy, is I say, which of these do not make sense? So I say B cannot make sense. Because if I look at all these dots, look how far off they are from the actual line. So I know it can't be B. I also know it can't be D Because I have all these dots just way over here, right? And my line's right here. Okay, so I have two options, right? I have this option here, and I have this option here. So it's either going to be A or C. Okay, so I ask myself, which of these are closer, which of these dots are closer to their line? Okay, my answer on this one is going to be C, because my lines or my dots are generally going to be a little bit closer than they are on A. So my answer is going to be C on that one, because my dots are approximately closer to my line. Okay, question 16. It says function 1 is shown on the coordinate plane. So I have one function here. So this is not a system of equations until I add another function here. So it says function 1 is graphed. Okay, so they're sneaky on us. They graphed one and they gave us the equation of the other. So it says which statement about the rate of change is correct. Okay, if you're taking notes or you're writing this down, write this. Rate of change, right, is the same as slope. Okay, so rate of change is the same as slope. Okay, slope means however steep it is, right? So if I was here and I was biking, okay, so there's my bike. Okay, I was biking up this hill, pretend it's a mountain. I would say my slope is this mountain, right? So this slope is going to be steeper, right? Okay, and then this slope is going to be significantly less steep, right? So let's go to our equation. So it says function 2 is represented by the equation 3x plus 1. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. First, we're going to find what the equation is for this line. Okay, I do that by finding where it crosses the y-intercept first. So I know it crosses at 1. Okay, so I know it's going to be y equals. The first thing I have to do is find what the slope is. So I find the slope by finding 2 points on the line that are on like a grid point like this. So like these 2 points, right? So then from this point here to this point, I have to go up 1 and over 1, 2, 3. So up 1, over 1, 2, 3. Okay, so slope, I can write this down. Slope is equal to rise over run. So how far up I go and how far sideways I go. So I know my equation is going to be 1/3 x plus my y-intercept, which is just 1. Okay, so then it says which statement about the rate of change is correct. So all I'm looking at are these. Just the 3x and the 1/3 x. Okay, so I can say, after looking at all of these, I could say that function 1, so this function, right, has a less, so my slope is less than function 2, because this one is 1/3 and this one is 3. Okay, so my answer on this one is going to be B. So function 2, so this function has a greater slope because 3 is greater than 1/3. Okay, so number 17, it says at the zoo, there's an aquarium that is 36 feet north of a gift shop. Okay, so here we go. Here's my gift shop right here. Okay, I know my drawing skills are impeccable. Okay, my aquarium is up here. So there's my aquarium. Okay, there's my aquarium. So it's 36 feet north. And the monkey habitat is 323 feet east of the gift shop. Okay, so here's my monkey habitat. Okay, there's my monkey habitat. So I'm going to draw this line right here. Okay, so it's 36 feet north. And it's 323 feet east. And it says, what is the distance between the aquarium and the monkey habitat? Okay, so I know this is just going to be a Pythagorean theorem problem. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label my sides. So I draw a line directly across, and I label that C. And I labeled my other two A and B. Okay, so then I follow the Pythagorean theorem, which is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I say 36 squared plus 323 squared is equal to C squared. Okay, so I'm going to do this with you. Okay, make sure you guys put this in your calculator with me. So I'll give you guys a second to get those out. Okay, so when you do 36 squared plus 323 squared, I get this. I get 105,625. That's equal to C squared. Okay, and then if you remember with me, how do I get C by itself? I then take the square root of both sides. So I take the square root of 105,625, and I get 325 equals C. So I know this side has to be 325 feet. So my answer is C. Okay, I'll keep moving. Okay, so you can pause it if you need to. Okay, question 18 says Barry and Omar are each selling potato salad in their sandwich shops. I'm not a fan of potato salad, but to each their own. Okay, Barry uses the graph shown to determine the total cost for different amounts of potato salad. Okay, so here's his graph here. So this says for every pound of potato salad that he sells, this is how much money he's making in dollars. So for example, when he sells 1 pound, he sells this much, or he has that much money. Okay, so it says Omar uses the equation y equals 2.89x to determine the total cost, y in dollars, for x pounds of potato salad. So here's the difference. Barry puts his money that he makes based on the pounds of salad that he sells on a graph. And Omar puts his pounds of salad that he sells and how much money he makes in an equation. Okay, so now we're going to take Barry's graph and we're going to make it an equation. Okay, so to do that, I first ask myself, where is it the y-intercept? And I say it's at 0, so I don't need to do anything with that. The next thing I need to find is the slope. Okay, so I put a point where it crosses on a grid. Okay, and I find another one. And I say this goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and it goes over 1, 2. So I know my slope, or my equation, is going to say it goes up 5 and over 2. So that's my equation for this one. Okay, I can also write 5 divided by 2 as 2.5x, right? So all I did was take this graph and turn it into an equation like that. Okay, so now it says, which statement about the cost of potato salad at Barry's and Omar's sandwich shop is true? Okay, so here's what I got. So I have Barry's equation right here. And I have Omar's equation right here. Okay, so I'm going to look here at all of my choices. Okay, so A, it says the cost per pound at Barry's sandwich shop is less than the cost per pound at Omar's sandwich shop. Okay, so I say this is Barry's equation and this is Omar's equation. I say, what if I were to sell 1 pound of potato salad? Is it cheaper to buy that at Barry's shop or at Omar's shop? Okay, our answer should be at Barry's shop because his is 2.5 per pound of potato salad, right? So my answer is actually going to be A, right? So I could check the rest of those. Okay, so it says the cost per pound at Omar's sandwich shop is less than the cost per pound at Barry's shop, which I know is not true because that's the opposite of what we just said. Okay, C says the cost per pound at the cheaper sandwich shop depends on how many pounds of potato salad the customer purchases, but that doesn't matter, right? Because Barry's shop will always be cheaper. And D says it is impossible to find out how much this is going to cost, and that's just not true. So I know it has to be A because Barry's shop is cheaper to buy potato salad at. So if you like potato salad, go to Barry. Okay, question 19. It says a quadrilateral, ABCD, is translated to form quadrilateral ABCD. We can call that A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime. All that's saying is that I move it around a little bit. Okay, so this says how can the translation of quadrilateral ABCD to quadrilateral A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime be described using coordinates? So I'm just saying, how did I move this one to here, right? So here's what I'm going to do for these. I'm going to pick a point. Let's pick A. And I'm going to say, how do I get from this A to this A? Okay, so I know I have to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to the right. Okay, so I moved 7 to the right. And I moved down 1, 2. So down 1, 2. Okay, so now I have to find the translation down here of the one that is plus 7, x plus 7, because this is my x-axis here. So that's my x-axis. Okay, so x plus 7, right? And there's only one that's going to have that. But just to double check, I have to find one that says y minus 2, because this is my y-axis, and I went down 2. So I know my answer has to be D. Okay, number 20. It says Beth earns $35,000 per year at her job as a salesperson. She also earns 15% of her total sales for the year. She writes the function shown below. Okay, so here's my function, right? So that is Beth's function to see how much money she earns a year. So she earns this much a year normally, and then, right, she says she also earns 15% of her total sales for the year. So that's 15% of her total sales. Okay, so it says for each statement in the table, mark whether it is true or false. So the first one says the graph of Beth's function is a straight line. Okay, so I'm going to say this is true because this right here grows at a constant rate, right? So my graph here would look something like this. I would just have a line like that. So I know it's going to grow at a constant rate. Okay, the second thing, so let's label these 1, 2, and 3. The second thing says the slope of Beth's function is always or is 15. I know that's not true because it's 0.15, because it's 15%. So I say that's false. Okay, the third thing is the y-intercept of Beth's function is 35,000. And we say that's true, right there. So we say that's true. Because this right here is always the y-intercept. Okay, going on to 21. It says the figure shows a large triangle divided into 2 smaller triangles. Okay, so I need to know this. This is important. A triangle has a total of 180 degrees. Okay, so both of these have a total of 180 degrees. Okay, so I'm missing this angle on this one. Okay, what's important to know is that a straight line is 180 degrees. Okay, so if I have a straight line here, and this part is 105 degrees, all I have to do is 180 minus 105. Okay, so I say 180 minus 105 is equal to 75. Okay, so I know this bottom corner is 75 degrees. Okay, so let me move that. Okay, so 75 degrees. Okay, but I know the whole thing is equal to 180 degrees. So I can say 65 plus 75 plus x is equal to 180. Okay, so all I do is put this into my calculator. So I'll do 65 plus 75, and that gives me 140 plus x equals 180. Then I subtract 140 from both sides. Okay, so I get x is equal to 40. Okay, so I know that x has to equal 40 degrees. Okay, so all I did was find the missing angle, and I know that my whole triangle is equal to 180 degrees. Okay, number 22. It says Henry surveys 80 people. He asks each person 2 questions. Have you ever taken a taxi? And have you ever visited another state? Okay, so here is our table and all of our answers that we've been asking people. So this says complete each sentence with more likely, less likely, or equally as likely based on the results from Henry's survey. Okay, so number 1 here, let's label this number 1, 2, and 3. Okay, number 1 says a random person from Henry's survey is blank to have taken a taxi than to have not taken a taxi. So I look at my taxis here. Okay, so has taken a taxi and has not taken a taxi. So I say, is it more likely that someone has not taken a taxi or that has taken a taxi, right? And I say it is less likely to have taken a taxi than to have not taken a taxi. Okay, the second one says a random person from Henry's survey who has taken a taxi is blank to have visited another state than to have not visited another state. So now we're looking for the people that have taken a taxi, okay? And we say, are there more people that have visited another state or have not visited another state? In this case, we're going to say more likely to visit another state than to have not visited a state. Okay, number 3 says a random person from Henry's survey who has not visited another state is blank to have visited or to have taken a taxi than to have not taken a taxi. Okay, so we're looking for people that have not visited another state, and we say, is it more likely that they have taken a taxi or have not taken a taxi? And we say it's less likely. So less likely. So it's less likely, more likely, and less likely. Okay, the last one is number 23. It says a rug has 2 quadrilaterals woven in its design. On a diagram, the smaller quadrilateral is labeled GHIJ. Okay, so here's my quadrilateral. Okay, and it's labeled G, H, I, and J. And it says on a diagram, that one's smaller. The second quadrilateral is right here, and it's labeled K, L, M, N. And it says it's a dilation. So dilation can mean getting bigger, getting smaller. Think of like your pupils. Whenever the lights turn on, your pupils can get bigger and smaller. Okay, so it says select the 2 statements that are true about these 2 shapes. Okay, so I'm going to look at these angles, and I'm going to ask myself, which of these angles are the same? If you notice, G is the same as K, H is the same as L, J is the same as N, and I is the same as M. Okay, so I'm going to look at B, and is G congruent to angle K? So G congruent to K. And we're going to say, out of all those angles, that one makes sense, okay? So G is equal to K, or congruent. Congruent means equal. So I know it has to be B, right? And I know it also has to be E. So it says the sum of the angles G, H, and I, they're equal to the sum of angles K, L, and M. Okay? So I know this angle right here is equal to this angle right here because it's in the same angle. So I know it has to be B, I know it has to be E, and I can eliminate the other 3 if I were to go all through each of those. So thank you for watching, and copy down all of this and slow it down or rewind it if you need to rework anything. Thanks.